One time I remember driving up in a wagon to a field, and there was all these relatives way out there working in the field. And as the wagon pulled up, my relatives that came with me got off of the wagon, and they would run up to each other and they would hug everyone and they would cry, and everybody would cry and being so grateful to have lived the winter through. Among our people, things have changed so much in some ways and then forgotten in modern times. But when I was very small, we used to do most of our traveling by wagon back in those days. And we would load up some members of the family, and we would travel to some other of our relatives that may live a distance away from us. And I always remembered that the women, especially, when they would get down out of the wagon and they would go over to the hogan of their cousin, their sister, their clan relative, they would hug one another. And oh, they would cry, and they would say the word halan sheteja, shema son, any relative, shetai, shetejanal. And it was very sad to see, and because they were so grateful to see each other, and they would both cry. I remember seeing that so many times. One time I remember driving up in a wagon to a field, and there was all these relatives way out there working in the field, and as the wagon pulled up, my relatives that came with me got off of the wagon, and they would run up to each other and they would hug everyone and they would cry, and everybody would cry and being so grateful to have lived the winter through, or to live that whole season or those seasons that they had not seen one another. And it was a great thing to observe. And they would come and hug me and cry. And being very young, I didn't understand a lot of that type of behavior. But as I got older, when I went off to school or when I went off into the military and I came home, and my mom and dad would take me around to all of the relatives, and all of the relatives would hug me and cry and be grateful that I had survived and being able to make it home. And it was really something that affected me in thinking, that was a special, very special way to treat your relatives and your loved ones. And so today I practice, I hug my grandchildren, I hug my children, I hug my relatives, and even people that are just related to me by clan that I am very familiar with and acquainted with, I hug them and I tell them I really do appreciate them. That you are my people, you are related to me, thank you. And so it is that today I go around and I see the Diné, and I watch them, I observe them, and I think, I love these people. I don't know their names, I don't know what clan they are, but I love them. And they are struggling, particularly during this time of this pandemic, this COVID-19. Our Navajo people are spreading the virus, they say, and it's because probably some of them still practice this idea of hugging one another and crying over each other, and saying halan, which is I appreciate you so much, and it is that you mean everything to me as a relative. And it is a great way to express love and appreciation to one another. And I think that in some ways we're forgetting this particular part of our cultural practice. and I wish it was done, even though during this pandemic. And those were the things that I remember, and the things that I have observed, and the things that we are told.